Hi, and welcome to the Simple Weight Loss Podcast. I'm Christina, qualified nutritionist, food coach, and mum of two. If you're a busy mum who wants straightforward, no-nonsense weight loss advice without all the complicated science talk, or you just want to learn more about health and nutrition in a way that's easy to understand, then you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome back to the Simple Weight Loss Podcast. Today is going to be all about fibre. It's something I don't think is talked about enough in the weight loss world, at least not in enough detail for people to understand why it's so important. I promise it's not going to be a boring episode. I'm not going to just tell you to eat all bran, but I think when people understand why fibre is so important, everything starts to click for them. At the moment, we live in a world that is just obsessed with protein and counting calories, hitting your macros. And while, yes, protein is important, I know I definitely talk about it a lot because it has a huge role to play. But while everyone's fixated on that and calorie counting, fibre's still there in the background doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And most people are completely ignoring it. So hopefully what I share today will help you kind of reframe how you approach your food choices and weight loss altogether. So in today's protein-obsessed world, the average adult is only getting about 15 to 18 grams of fibre per day, but the recommendation is actually 30 grams per day. So most people are barely hitting half of the recommended amount. And I think that could be one of the reasons why so many people find weight loss really hard. So I want to explain today why fibre matters so much, what it's actually doing in your body, and how you can start using it as a weight loss tool instead of just something that your doctor tells you need to eat more of for whatever reason. I think one of the biggest problems is that food has changed so much in the last 50 years that everything's so processed. There's packaged snacks, cereals, white breads, ready-made meals. All these things have had the fibre taken out of them. So it makes the food softer and easier to eat and more palatable in some cases. And it increases the shelf life of foods as well, which is why companies take a majority of it out. So it's great for manufacturers, but not so great for us. We need to have fibre there to keep us feeling full. But the sneaky part of all these processed foods is that you can still feel full on calories. You can eat a pack of biscuits or a big bowl of white pasta and feel like you're really stuffed. Your stomach is physically full, but your body on a hormonal cellular level is not satisfied. And that's a really big, important difference between those two things. When you eat fibre, it triggers the release of hormones like GLP-1 that signal to your brain that, hey, we're good now, you can stop eating. These are your satiety hormones. And it's basically your body telling you to put your fork down because you've had enough. But when you're eating foods that have been stripped of the fibre, system in your brain doesn't work properly. You just end up eating more and more because your body's not telling you to stop. And you end up feeling overfull and uncomfortable. So even though you've eaten plenty of calories, your body's still waiting for that signal to come, but it doesn't. And then that's why you find yourself standing at the fridge half an hour after dinner looking for something else because your body's not satisfied yet. So when you understand this, hopefully it makes you think, maybe I should be getting more fibre into my meals so I'm not looking for food in an hour's time. It can change everything about how you lose weight. The other important thing worth mentioning is that low fibre food affects your blood sugar. So when you eat something like white bread or a sugary snack, your blood glucose spikes rapidly and you get a quick burst of energy, but then it crashes again. And that crash is what drives cravings. And your body interprets that drop in blood sugar as a threat. And it sends out the hunger signals, even though you only ate an hour ago. So it's a really vicious cycle. And fibre is one of the best tools we have to stop that cycle. So that basically sums it up in a nutshell. But I do want to go a little bit deeper because fibre is actually doing some really interesting things in your body. So the first physical stuff that's going on, fibre, particularly soluble fibre, which you'll find in things like oats, apples, beans, and flax seeds, these absorb water and it creates like a thick gel in your digestive tract. And the gel does a few things. So first, it slows down how quickly food moves through your stomach and into your small intestine. So that means that glucose from your meal is released slowly into your bloodstream. So there's no spikes, no crashes, no desperate mid-afternoon cravings. It's just nice, steady energy. It also physically takes up space in there. So that gel expands in your stomach, which then stimulates the stretch receptors in your stomach wall that sends signals to the brain saying, all good, we're satisfied. So you end up feeling full for longer, but not in an uncomfortable way. Then there's the calorie absorption part of it, which is actually really interesting. So when you eat fiber, some of the fat and some of the carbs you've consumed bind to the fiber in your gut and gets carried out of your body before they can be fully absorbed. So I'm not talking about huge numbers. You're not voiding half your meal or anything, but research does suggest that higher fiber diets can reduce the net calorie absorption over time without you having to count a single calorie. I think that alone is worth eating fiber for. You can eat all this food and some of the calories won't even count. And then there's also the gut microbiome connection. So your gut is home to trillions of bacteria, many of the beneficial ones, so the ones that are associated with lower inflammation, a better mood, stronger immunity. These feed on fiber, specifically on prebiotics, which I'm sure everyone's heard of. These prebiotics are a type of soluble fiber. And when those bacteria are well fed and thriving, they produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids, which have been linked to reduced appetite, improved insulin sensitivity, and even changes in how your body handles the storage of fat. So when you eat fiber, you're not just feeding yourself, you're feeding an entire ecosystem that in turn helps to regulate your hunger, your metabolism, and your weight. It's a really, really interesting system going on inside us that a lot of people ignore, but when you start paying attention to it, start looking after it, it looks after you. Now we know why fiber matters, but I want to get a bit more practical because I think this is where people get a bit lost. 30 grams of protein, it sounds like a lot if you don't know what you're working with and you're starting from a low base. So a typical low fiber day might look like breakfast being a bowl of cornflakes with some milk. That might have 1 gram of fiber. Lunch, you might have a sandwich on white bread with some chicken and a bag of chips. That might be 2 grams. Afternoon, you might have a couple of biscuits, which is virtually no fiber. Dinner, let's say you have a bowl of pasta with a jar of tomato sauce, maybe 3 grams in that. So that totals only like 6 to 8 grams of fiber. It's nothing, not even close to where you need to be aiming for. And on that day, I guarantee you would be feeling so tired at the end of the day. You'd be craving sugary snacks. You'd be searching for something an hour after dinner, and you just end up hungrier than you need to be. But now if we look at a high fiber day with similar calorie content, breakfast could be oats with some berries, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. And for me, I'd also add protein in there, but that's another topic. Today we're talking about fiber. So that there, just the oats, berries, flaxseed, that's 10 grams right there. Easy. Lunch, let's say you have a big bowl of salad with some lentils, some roast veggies, and maybe a piece of whole grain bread. That's another 12 grams right there. So you're already 2/3 of the way to hitting your goal. Then dinner, you'd have a stir fry, heaps of veggies, some brown rice. That's another 8 grams. And you're at 30 before you know it. So that gets you to 30 grams and you haven't even thought about snacks all day. So you're probably still eating less calories than normal because these foods are so packed with fiber. It means the calorie content is naturally lower. There was an interesting study that was done at the University of Massachusetts Medical School where they asked one group to increase their fiber to 30 grams a day and the other group were asked to follow a really detailed heart-healthy diet, and they had lots of rules and restrictions in place. And at the end of the year, both groups lost a similar amount of weight. So really all you need to do is add fiber. You don't need all the extra rules and restrictions. You can simply add fiber and you're going to get the same result. So there's no reason to add extra rules or restrictions when it comes to eating. If you're eating plenty of fiber, your body will naturally start to shut down all the cravings and possibly even some of the food noise that you might be experiencing. The other thing I would recommend doing is to track your fiber for a few days, even just 3 days. And most people end up genuinely shocked at how little they're consuming. So an app like MyFitnessPal, that makes it really easy to track. Just roughly put in what you've eaten during the day and it'll tell you how much you've had. It's a really eye-opening exercise. Now, you may be thinking, well, yeah, but every time I eat lots of fiber, I end up really bloated and uncomfortable. It's completely normal. It is a valid concern. I think that's why a lot of people maybe change their diet and they start introducing a lot of fiber and they feel uncomfortable. So they think, no, it doesn't work for me, and they stop doing it. But because this is happening, it doesn't mean that fiber is bad for you or that there's something wrong with you. It just means that you increased it too fast. Your gut bacteria needs time to adjust, especially if you're coming from a very low fiber diet. You need to increase it gradually to avoid feeling really uncomfortable. If you've been eating 10 grams of fiber per day for your whole life and then you all of a sudden jump to 30, 35 grams a day, your gut's going to protest. It's not surprising when you're overloading it with something it hasn't seen before. And the reason it's not happy is because the bacteria that process the fiber needs time to multiply first. And so while that's happening, you can get some bloating, gas, and just discomfort. But it's temporary. It will go away. And try not to give up before you let your body adjust and make changes it needs to make. But the solution's simple. Just increase it slowly. So maybe add 5 grams a week. So if you're currently at 15 grams a day, just go up to 20 grams a day for the next week. And then keep increasing until you hit 30. And make sure you drink more water. Fiber needs water to do its job. If you increase fiber without increasing water, you can actually end up constipated, which is the complete opposite of what you want. That's not what fiber is meant to do. So cooking your vegetables can help reduce the initial digestive discomfort as well compared to raw veggies. And if you're really sensitive, starting with easier to digest sources like oats, cooked carrots, before moving on to beans and legumes, that can make the transition a bit easier. And the other thing worth mentioning is that variety matters. So don't just eat the same high fiber food every day. Different fibers feed different strains of gut bacteria. So the more variety you have in your plant foods, the richer and more diverse your gut microbiome becomes. And that's where the long-term benefits are going to start showing up. Now, maybe you're thinking, I'm fine, I don't need to do this. I take a fiber supplement. Supplements do have their place, definitely, especially if you're traveling or struggling to hit targets consistently, but they're not the same as whole food fiber. When you eat lentils or an apple, you're getting fiber plus antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that all work together. Supplements give you the fiber component, but in isolation, they don't give you the rest of the picture. So use them as a top-up, not as a replacement for whole foods. Now, if you're trying to do a low-carb diet and thinking, well, fiber's a carb, I can't eat it, need to stay away from it, there's actually a really important difference. So yes, fiber technically is a carbohydrate, but it is not digested or absorbed in the same way that other carbs are. It doesn't raise your blood sugar either, and it doesn't break down into glucose. And that's exactly why it has the effect that it does. Most low-carb approaches actually exclude fiber from the net carb calculation for this exact reason. You can still eat leafy greens, nuts, seeds, avocados, and non-starchy veg on a low-carb plan and hit a decent fiber intake for the day. Okay, so the main thing I want you to take away from today is basically that fiber makes eating less feel easier. It's not about restricting yourself. It's not about trying to avoid certain foods. It's not about trying to grit your teeth through being really hungry every day while you're trying to lose weight. It's about just giving your body what it needs to work properly and be able to drop the weight that you're wanting to lose. When you eat enough fiber, your hormones work properly, your blood sugar stays stable, your gut bacteria are happy, and you naturally end up eating less and feeling better. And the best thing is it's not complicated. There is nothing complicated about eating more fiber. You just need to start noticing fiber and increasing it. So if you just want to start one thing this week, just start by tracking your fiber. Don't do anything else differently. Just track how much you're eating and see how much you need to increase it to get to that 30 gram per day goal. One of the easiest things to do, easy swaps like changing white bread to whole grain bread, or add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to your breakfast, or throw in a handful of lentils with your dinner. That alone can add 10 to 15 grams in one day, and that could be all you need. Job done. I have made it really easy to hit your fiber goals in my Ultimate Weight Loss Guide. There's even a 2-week sample plan you can follow, but even if you don't follow it exactly, you're likely to get to that 30 gram per day goal anyway. But if you want, I'll post a link in the notes so you can check it out. Thanks so much for listening today. If you enjoyed it, got something out of it, I'd really appreciate a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Simple Health Method. I'll see you next time.